Hello and welcome to Algebra 2 tutorial. We are continuing our journey through solving quadratic equations. Last time we did square roots and we have 3 more to get to. So in this video we're going to take a look at the next easiest one, solving by factoring. So really quick, I don't want us to forget what we're doing overall. So in general, solving a quadratic equation is finding the x-intercepts. So here one answer would be -8, and the other answer we can't quite see perfectly, it would be -1 point something. So remember the 4 vocabulary words that are all the same: x-intercepts, solutions, zeros, or roots. Those are all asking us to do the same thing. Find these 2 points. Alright, so with our context out of the way, let's get down to the numbers. How do we solve by factoring? So the first one, real easy. This is the shortest way of factoring. It's the easiest type of problem. You can often recognize it because this number is a 1. And you ask yourself, all right, 1 times 18 is 18. I guess I should really quick point out, we are going to try to write this in factored form. I know I said the word factoring, but if you remember, factored form looks like this. And so we're going to try to write this equation looking like this. And the trick to doing that is multiplying the first number times the last number, and then finding all the numbers that multiply to be 18, and hopefully you find a pair that add up to be 9. So we have 1 times 18, sadly that doesn't do it. 2 times 9, sadly that doesn't do it. And then 3 times 6. That looks like that will do it. It multiplies to be 18 and it adds up to be 9. So that is the one we're going to choose. You can see how I went in order: 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6. If you do that in order, you'll make sure you don't miss any by counting 1, 2, 3. If it was a number bigger than 18, I would go 4, 5, 6. And then if you're lucky and you can solve it with factoring, you will find a pair that add up to this number. So that means my 2 factors will be x plus 3 and x plus 6. That's just a little trick. If you multiply this out, combine like terms, you will get back to the beginning. But we want to solve this. We factored it, but we haven't found the 2 solutions. What are the x-intercepts? Well, we did that a long time ago. This gives us the solution x equals -3, and this one gives us the solution x equals -6. You can see we still have 2 answers. It's not the same number like it was for square roots oftentimes, but we do still have 2 answers because your parabola usually crosses the x-axis in 2 places. Alright, so that's when factoring goes the easiest it can. What if it get a slightly harder example over here? This one's not going to work out nearly as nice because this 4 is not a 1. And so we can't quite use this same shortcut for factoring. But we start out the same. 4 times the -3 gives us -12. And what numbers multiply to be 12 and add up to be -4? Well, let's try it. 1 and 12, 2 and 6. I'm going to just list all of them out. 3 and 4. I could put 4 here, but it'd be 4 and 3, which I already have. And so here are all the factors of 12. Which one could add or subtract up to -4? It looks like 2 and 6. And that will get us there if the 6 is negative. Alright, I'm not going to do any trick on this one or any shortcut. We're going to do this one the long way. So our y value, remember we're finding zeros, so that is 0. And 4x squared. Now the reason we did this whole thing is that is how we're going to break up this middle term. So that is going to be a plus 2x minus 6x. You see how that would simplify down to -4x? So I'm not actually changing anything here. Alright, and then we group this together into 2 pieces. That's why it's called factor by grouping. In my opinion, it's the only way to really factor. All right, and then 4 and 2, those have a like term of 2, and they also have a like term of x. So I'm going to factor that out with the GCF. You're left with 2x plus 1. And over here, what do these two have in common? I can pull out a negative 3, but not an x. So what's left over is 2x and plus 1. And the whole thing does still equal 0. And you can see that these two big terms have this in common, right here. And because they have that in common, we can factor it out. So in the front, we now have a 2x plus 1. We factored that out, and we always put what's left over in parentheses as well. What's left over? A 2x and a negative 3. So there we have our factored form. That was just the factoring. We haven't actually solved yet. We now solve this by taking this and setting it equal to 0, and taking this and setting it equal to 0. Because these are a little harder, we can't quite do them in our head like we did over here. So I'm at 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. But now I think we can do this in our head. We're going to subtract 1 and then divide by 2. So x is equal to negative 1 over 2, so 1/2. And this one I think we can do in our head, add 3, divide by 2. So that will be 3 over 2, which is 1.5. But we can leave it as a fraction. So definitely much longer when you don't have a nice shortcut for factoring, but you can still find the two solutions, or x-intercepts, or roots. Lots of different names. Remember, we have 4 different names for those. All right. That one was kind of rough. Never fear, math always has a shortcut. So when you have harder factoring examples, yes, there is a way you can solve it much, much easier. So here's the shortcut to do that same difficult process. So we again take the 4 times the 3. We get our negative 12, and we do that whole process, and we realize that we need 2 and negative 6. That make negative 4 in the middle. And we start by doing the problem wrong. All right, so I'm going to do the old x plus 2, x minus 6. Now we know that is not correct, but we start there. So you might even want to make a note that this is wrong. Sorry about the weird R there. But we fix it, and the way we fix it is by doing something weird. It's called bottoms up. What we do is we divide these second parts here by this 4, which was really giving us the big trouble in the beginning anyways. We want that to be a 1. And so we divide that by 4. Now, as you can see, both of these fractions, they can be reduced, and so you reduce them. So that would be 1 over 2. And this one would be 3 over 2. Now they don't reduce anymore. And once they can't reduce, you take the bottom and you bring it up. All right, if you remember your math teacher doing this, it's called bottoms up, because you take the bottom number after you reduce and you bring it up. So when I bring it up to the x, it's now a 2x. And take a look at the second number. It is a 1 plus 1. And over here, we take the bottom and we bring it up. And minus, let's see, it's not a 6 anymore. I should have crossed those out. It's now a 3. And you can see that is exactly the same as the factoring problem we had last time. And so if we solve that, we'd get the same answers, negative 1/2 and 3/2. Much, much easier. All right, it's always hard the first time though. So let's do it once more, and you'll see just how easy the bottoms up method is. So what we do is 3 times 8, which gives us 24. Now, what multiplies to be 24 and adds to be 14? After a while, you'll be able to do that in your head without having to check all of them. So it is 2 and 12. And so what we do is we start out by factoring this the wrong way. X plus 2, x plus 12. This is wrong. I can't stress that enough. This is not correct. You have to fix this. So let's fix it. We divide this one and we divide that one by our a value. The first one, that doesn't reduce. So the 3 just comes up and you're left with 3x plus 2. Alright, now we need our second one. Ooh, 12 and 3 does reduce. 12 divided by 3 is just 4. So there's no bottom here. Well, there is a bottom of 1, but if I put a 1 right here, that doesn't change anything. There's already a 1. So it's just 1x plus 4. And it all still equals 0. Let's see, this one we can do in our head. What makes this one equal to 0? Negative 4. So we got that one for free. This one you might not be able to do in your head, so I'm going to actually write it out. 3x plus 2 equals 0. Minus 2, then divide by 3. So negative 2/3 is our second answer. Alright, so hopefully you can see that isn't too bad. The bottoms up method really does make this go really fast when you have the more difficult factoring with this a value in front. If that's a 1, you have it made in the shade, as some people say. So that is pretty much as hard as it gets for factoring. We did some hard examples, we did some easy examples. But that is our second method for solving quadratic equations. So far we've gotten rid of square roots, we've done factoring, and we've got 2 more left. But first, why don't you practice some factoring examples here. Go ahead and try those out, and if you've got those, I think you've got it down. Good luck.